Okay, so this appears to be something that a lot of people are kind of, I don't know, having trouble with or just not interested in or whatever. But I'm trying to, I've tried a couple of times. I guess I'm not as articulate as I think I am because people are sure having a hell of a time understanding what I'm saying. But the idea behind these is that because it's not a live game, there'll be no live battles. We're not going to some VTT to fight out the engagements. I need to have them flowing. I need to have a series of events. These create a storyboard. And so I'll just kind of go through how to fill them out and then maybe try to explain more as to what filling them out does for the game and for you. So, first of all, the unit. That's the unit you're giving the orders to. Is it the first fleet, the second armored division, the third platoon, whatever? From. That's you. You who are issuing the order. You being not you the person, you the character, your character's name, rank, and position. To the commander of the unit that you want to move. What's his character's name, rank, and position? Date and time we'll get into. That kind of got blown out of the water because we didn't start when I expected to start. There was all these changes, and everybody kind of the thing. We had this kind of sidetrack. So it was supposed to be you just looking at the date and time on the calendar, but I'll put in some sort of channel or some way so that you can reference it in the Discord and see what the time and date is so that matches up. That also helps me with chronology. So I'll put it somewhere where everybody can see it. There won't be any permissions or restrictions. It doesn't matter who sees it. It's not some secret information, so just everybody can take a look. So when you write it out, you'll know what to put in for date and time. Operation name. The Imperial's operation name is Operation Strike Fear. That's the totality of the thing we're doing. That encompasses everything occurring in all the different sectors. So if you want some sub operation or, like Market Garden was two different. There was the market and the garden. If you want to say, if that's up to you to do, but if you're going to decide to do that sort of stuff, just please keep it consistent so that I can sort them properly. And the unique identifier also helps me sort things. It's very simple. Just use the last name of your character dash. Is this the first time you've issued an order? Then use 1. Is it the second time? 2. Is it the third time? 3. And so on and so forth. That's all. Then I have a record of the of all of your orders chronologically. As far as enemy forces, it's not strictly necessary. If you're going to attack something, I guess if you don't want to fill that out, it does make things a little more complicated. But for me, maybe just put down the unit you're attacking, but you may not know the name of the unit. That's why, at the very least, strength, composition, and disposition would be helpful. If you're not familiar with the term, strength should be fairly obvious. It's how many men and vehicles are in the unit that you're attacking, even if it's an approximation, even if it's intelligence that may not be completely accurate, put that down, or guesstimation. The composition isn't, I guess, composition would be like, does it look like an armor unit? Does it look like an infantry unit, an artillery unit, things like that? It's not, probably not as necessary, excuse me. And disposition. Are they dug in, waiting to receive an attack? Are they on the defensive? Are they do they look like they're about ready to attack you? Are they in a mobile formation, column, line, wedge, something along those natures? Capabilities, I suppose you don't really necessarily need. And the other things, course of action. Like I said, that's not the way I would do it. I probably I would have put in MET-T. That's the way I did it in the service. But another thing is, I know a lot of people tend to balk at acronyms. So that's why I kind of went with that. And most likely course of action, most dangerous course of action, again, not necessarily uh, needed to be put in for me, but I would have thought it would have been a good planning thing for you. But that's fine. Friendly forces are there friendly forces in the area that aren't yours? Allies, other units, just things that you might want to consider, you know, so there isn't fratricide or something like that. Higher units mission. What are you part of? Are you part of a invasion force that's taking over a planet? Okay, so and you're what say creating a diversion. You're a soak off attack for a larger unit, something like that. You're making a flanking attack, whatever, things like that. Adjacent units is very helpful. Please put that in. You should have that information, and that just helps me place everything out in my mind and in the description. Same with supporting units. Do you have artillery, air support, things like that? Attachments and detachments. Technically, you're all detachments from a fleet. So if you're taking some recon off and letting them reconnoiter in some other direction while you attack or something like that, you would specify that. Um, as far as execution, this again, I would see this helping you as much as me. If you know, but it does help me to know what your intention is as far as are you trying to break the line? Are you trying to take that hill? Are you trying to envelop the enemy? Things of that nature. Um, Concept of operations. What are you going to do? Is first platoon going to go up the middle and second platoon flank from the right while third platoon follows on in reserve? Things of that nature. Um, the scheme of maneuver, I suppose we can put that as optional because we don't really have detailed maps. We're not playing this out uh, as a live thing. If it was a live thing, that would, but, and I don't have the time or inclination, for no offense, to just keep making battle maps for everything. It's hard enough to transmit information to people, and they seem confused enough. So I suppose we can just put that uh, things like that. It would be nice to fill out the other two. Um, Telling me which one's going to go where. Like I just used before. First platoon's going up the middle, second platoon's conducting a right flank, third platoon's in the rear with fire support or reserve or something like that. That would be great. Um, and the third one, tasks to combat support units, is we're being supported by the third battery of the mortar battalion or something of that nature. So there's some people that seem fairly experienced in World War II or type of things, and I would imagine that these would make a lot more sense to you because that would be, that kind of thing that they'd be talking about. It's certainly uh, people that have been in the Army, any Army, since then, I would imagine they'd have something at least close to this, or Marines. Sorry, don't want to leave them out. Um, this is another thing, coordinating instructions. Time you're going to touch this off. I'm not going to, I want you to do this. These aren't really uh, that difficult. The terrain thing I can see getting rid of because you might not have any uh, or enough detail, for every map or something like that. I mean, I can draw out a sketch or something. It's not going to win any, you know, art, whatever. But um, we'll talk about that. But moving on, coordinating instructions, time or conditions when a plan or task is to begin or end, the boundaries, the phase lines, the checkpoints, the timelines. Um, it would be nice if the boundaries and the phase lines aren't so much of a issue again because you're not going to have detailed TAC maps necessarily, but the timing conditions uh, would be great. Checkpoints, you're not. This is probably below an echelon where you have to worry about security and stuff like that. So, but a timeline would be nice. You know, we're planning on taking this hill. We're expecting the assault on the hill to take an hour. Hopefully, then we're going to jump off and and hit the line from the right or whatever. You know, so that would be great. But definitely timer conditions. Conditions would be something like if enemy probes to the left release armor from such and such, or some sort of anticipated possibility that you make a contingency for by issuing a conditional order that if such and such, you know, just basically an if then statement. You know, if armor hits right flank, release, you know, add formation or whatever it is, that kind of stuff. Um, Logistics. People wanted logistics, so logistics would be the details of the supplies needed, how they're getting there. Um, Services aren't so much of a big deal. Medical evacuation, you know, if the, it seemed even the people that are like, well, let's talk about details were like, well, that's a little too much. So cool, cool, cool. We can deal with that. Um, you'll get your casualty reports as far as POWs or something like that. They do play an integral part, but I don't know if you really need, you know, a whole military police thing about it. You know, we don't even. So I can see getting rid of that. Wait, oops. But supply and how they get there. That you definitely want. Okay. And command and control. Everybody didn't seem to think that was much of a big deal, and I suppose it's really not. Um, it would be, you know, what I'd really like to, I would like to see where you are, if you are there, and if you aren't there, who is the local commander and where are they? Are they in the rear, at the talk? Are they up front? You know, leading from that kind of thing. Command posts, well, you know, again, I would have loved to have that if we had maps because there's all sorts of. Some of this stuff just generates good narratives and interesting situations. Infiltrators might be a thing, but without a map and a location of command post, you know, you're just like. It sounds more like you're making something up if you go, by the way, these all of a sudden there's rangers in your rear or something like that. Um, so I guess we'll just keep that out. Communication plan, well, again, I guess we can leave that out. Challenge password, obviously, we can. If we don't have command posts, that's an early thing. Electronic warfare, though, if you have electronic warfare assets, what are they doing and where are they located, and what's your plan for using them? That is something I definitely want to see. Obviously, this stuff. Uh, you know what? Uh, I'm going to put acknowledgement in, um, and and all that is the recipient, if he's a person, signing off to me or just saying to me, yeah, I know what the hell he's talking about, or she. Um, and And this isn't bad either. If we do find where there might be additional maps or something like that. So, and putting your signature is no more than just typing your name at the bottom, just so that you've confirmed that you have sent this and that you're you're happy with its composition and that everything is a-okay. So write it out, do a quick review, make sure you haven't messed anything up, and then put your signature on it and send it to me. Or not really your actual pen signature, you know what I mean? Just type it in there. So that'll help a little bit. So okay, I took a couple things and put them back in, but they're literally just somebody saying yes, I understand it, and yes, I really meant to send this. I mean, it's literally putting your name down, so it's not that big of a deal. And we took some things out. Um, so I don't know if you let law. It's any. I think it's a little bit thinner, um, but hopefully that helps, so that you can understand. I don't know why the extra space is there. It doesn't really matter that much, but just so you get it a little bit. So what this does, why you're doing this, is because all that information is, like I say, that's formula for an output, for a narrative output. Some of it's used in the game system itself, as far as combat resolution. But it's all it. I mean, I'll go through it with you. I know who sent it. I know who it's for, so I know what unit I'm talking about. The date and time and the order's number helps with the chronology, so stuff isn't out of order. The operation name could help with that if you do want to use sub code names and stuff like that. Honestly, at this point, it'd probably be better just to tell you not to, because it might just make things more complicated. So, but again, I like to give players options. If you keep telling them what they can't do, they start getting bummed and go, well, where's the fun in that? So, but it might be best just to walk past it. Um, Strength and composition, again, very helpful. Uh, what it does is it gives me a picture of what your picture of the battlefield is versus the opposite side's picture of the battlefield, so that um, it kind of like shows me a kind of double blind. You didn't know that tank was there, so you wouldn't shoot at that tank. I mean, it's more complicated than that. We're not playing a skirmish game, but I'm just using it as an example. So it gives me that kind of outlook. Um, so, but a lot of it, very helpful, is the who, what, where, and why, the concept of operations, the intention that the result you're trying to get through your intention, um, who's maneuvering in what direction. So I can tell you, okay, third platoon was on the flank, making that flanking maneuver. So when you get the story of what happened, it all matches up. So you don't go and read and go, well, I didn't tell second platoon to go right. I told third platoon to go right. If you write that out, I make sure that stuff doesn't get, you know, modeled up. And plus, there is some consideration of position and range and stuff like that. Um, and the time, the coordinating structure, conditions. Uh, if I don't have the if one statements, then I can't trigger the if one statements as the battle progresses. So if you have conditional orders, I need to know what they are, so that if those conditions are met, that's considered when the resolution is going on. And the times, again, help with chronology. Uh, the supply and logistics was because people like the idea of having that as part of the planning, and that everybody had the leash that logistics is. So, as part of the overall logistical system, you have to make sure that you have supply and that you have the ability to move it and put it where it needs to go. And if you have, um, there's a difference between having ample supply, adequate supply, or inadequate supply. You may not be out of supply, but you may be very low, and that can have uh, consequences in battle. It affects your performance. It's part of the consideration for the combat resolution. Now that you wanted logistics, that's all going in as part of the whole deal. So that's why you're filling that out as part of the form. Uh, Locations of leaders, because the loss of command and control or the loss of leadership can have effects. So that's why having their position on the battlefield allows me to consider the idea that they might get snapped. Um, and if they do, who's going to step up and take their place? Electronic warfare is obvious. Having the position of that, having its intention, what it's going to do, uh, allows that to be considered because how does it affect the enemy? Does it affect the enemy? What are they doing to counter the electronic warfare? It's you know EW is its own kind of mini little battle, So that's why that's put out, and we've already covered just the confirmation, making sure that the person that receives it, if it is indeed an actual human being, goes, yes, I understand what you're saying, and all of this makes sense to me, and that the person who sent it also signs off that yes, uh, this is correct, and I didn't make any mistakes. So I hope that I hope people understand that. Now, if we were playing a game that was live, I wouldn't require something like this. There would be a heavily truncated version, you know, that would just probably be something more to what you're used to playing Kriegspiel in other cases. But without having map pieces and people standing around it, either, you know, even virtually on tabletop, I need this to work it all out. So there's that. I hope people are watching these. This is the second one I made. I'm